My name is Zach, and I'm here to help guitarists and band directors kind of navigate the role of a guitar in a big band, um, and kind of bridge the gap between what you might know and what's going to help out in that context. So the first thing is when you're looking at a part, a guitar part, that's the summary of the harmony across the whole band. It's not necessarily the guitar part, right? The chords live in families. There's a major family of chords, a minor family of chords, and a dominant family of chords. And for the most part, as long as you're in the right family, everything will line up pretty well. And the extensions are more just information about what's going on in the horn parts for rhythm guitar playing. So, if you are showing up to your jazz band and you Googled the chords to the song, it's like a little 1, 6, 2, 5 in C, you might have like a C major 7, A7, D minor 7, and G7. And one of these two things is going to happen if you like Google it. You get these big open ringing chords, and that's not quite the thing. We need something shorter and more percussive than that. So then the other thing that shows up is this. And none of those chords are wrong either, right? It's a C, an A7, a D minor 7, and a G7. But at speed, getting to those chords can be tricky, and since we're amplified, that might start to overpower the band, right? We don't want to play the whole chord. We want to add our own, we want to add a little bit of sonic information. So, we can get through a lot of these charts just by playing these little shell chords on the E string. So a shell chord is 3 out of the 4 notes of a chord. You got a whole big band. The other note's going to get covered. It's fine, right? So there's 3 shapes. We'll start here on the 5th fret, this A. Got a minor 7. Maybe that's just a straight line there, right? Straight across. And when I'm strumming it, my pointer finger kind of flops over a little bit to mute that A string. And most of the time I'm playing these happy little quarter notes. And if you watch my left hand, there's a little bit of muting. It's not like, I shorten the chords a little bit by just not pushing anymore. You just let the strings push your fingers back up. So we've got a minor 7, straight line. If I bump that top finger over, I get a 7 chord. Sort of looks like the number 7 if you squint a lot. If I bump the middle finger over, I get a major 7. So the minor 7 works for if the song wants a minor 9, a minor 11. Even if it wants a minor 7 flat 5, well, there's no 5 in there. We're not playing any wrong notes. This is a survival guide. 7th chord works for like a 7, a 9, any extension above a 7, right? And the major 7 works for a major 7, major 9, major whatever have you, right? The only exception to that rule is a 6th chord. 6th chord is in the major family. So, if we don't have a great option for a 6th chord, you could usually play a major 7 while we're just learning how this music works. And it's alright. So all we have to do is triangulate that shape and the notes on our E string. That's why these dots on the side of the neck are super helpful. I've got these fancy inlays, but they're in the same spot. Most guitars won't have one on fret 1. So you got dots, you got some kind of markers on 3, 5, and 7. those correspond to the notes G, A, and B. The word gab, if that helps, great. First three dots are gab. F is for first, here's your first fret. And the fourth dot is deeply frustrating. It's a C sharp. So it sits right in the middle of C and D. If it helps, and your guitar players still know what these things are, that hole is in the middle of the CD. If they still know what CDs are. And this double dot is the double dot because it's where the string starts over. This was our E string, here's E again. So, if I want to play those same chords, C major 7, A7, D minor 7, I can find a version of all those chords on the E string, right? Here's C, because it's, to the left side of that CD hole. And the major 7 was the one where everything's further away. It's the bigger one. So C major 7, and you get an A7. So A is in the middle letter in the word gab. Oh, okay, so here's an A. This shape that kind of looks like a 7 is a 7 chord. D minor 7. So D is the other side of the CD, right? Minor 7 was the straight line. The last one was G7. So G is the first letter in gab. G. Here's your 7 shape. So check it out. And that's kind of the sound we need for this music, right? The biggest trick, the biggest problem is physically these chords are far apart, right? Like D and G, if you're moving at speed, that's a long way to jump and hope you land on the right fret. And it's a little bit perilous, but it's something, right? So these shapes will give you something to play on these charts that sounds like big band guitar playing. So, recap. Minor 7. It's a straight line, like a minus symbol. 7 kind of looks like the number 7. Squint a lot. Major 7 is the most different from the minor 7. It has the major, the major difference, if it helps. Right? So, find your fret, find your shape. You're there. There's a couple other chord types that kind of pop out of the woodwork, right? So the first one is a diminished chord. So, I find the easiest way to play a diminished chord is think about your 7th chord. Since we're playing 3/4 of a chord, not a lot has to change. So if I have a B flat diminished chord, the note I need to make it a B flat 7 chord, the note I need to make it B diminished is this one. And this is not very practical. So I'm going to get that note with my middle finger, and my ring finger, or my index finger comes back and grabs that note right back there. It's the same note I was just holding, there's just a little bit of a handoff. And you can practice going. For a little while, because that swap between index and middle finger chords happens a lot, right? So this chord is great. This works as a B diminished chord, right? All of these notes are in B diminished. It's 3/4 of it. It's also 3/4 of a minor 6 chord. If the chart is calling for a B minor 6, there it is. If I want to be a little more thorough, oh, that's the other note. Or up here. If the song is calling for a B diminished, oh, that's the other note. or back here with a bar. But this little shell chord works great for those two chords. It actually works for a couple of other things when we start to find notes on the A string, right? So the last chord type is a sus chord. Sus is not for suspicious. Sus is for suspended. And when you suspend a thing, you hold it up, right? So if I've got this A7 chord, well, what note do I suspend? Well, it can't be this one, because then it's not A anymore, it's B flat, right? It can't be this one, because that's A major 7, and it's already got a name. It's this one on top. This note that is the third. It's the third of the chord. And if you just take that note, you move up a fret, I got a little sus chord. And then my ring finger is right there, if it resolves. I can put that same thing on a major 7, right? So here's my major 7, sus 4, oh, it's just right there. If it calls for it. So yeah, quick recap. Chords live in families. As long as we're in the right family, it'll probably be okay. If it asks for a 13, you can play a 7. If it asks for a 9, you can play a 7, right? We'll add more notes later if we want them. And then, instead of playing either the open ringing chords or these giant bar chords that are inconvenient and kind of in the way of the rest of the band, we play 3-note chords. Got a couple of shapes. Right. And as long as I put the right shape on the right fret, I get the chord that I need. Cool, thank you. Yeah, in the next video we'll talk about, all the notes that live on strings that aren't the E string. But most guitar players know the E string the best, right? From going, or like learning the bar chords. So E string is the first priority. Thank you. Hope it helps.